I just had my son and he doesn't look anything like his father. And the worst part is that this time I swear it wasn't my fault. Yes, I know how that sounds. It sounds like an excuse, an old lie dressed up as trauma. But if you're going to judge me, at least listen to the whole story. I had a life many would envy. I was pretty, young, and had all the men eating out of my hand. I always knew how to get what I wanted, one smile, one drink, and someone ended up taking me home. I was promiscuous, maybe. I didn't care at all. I met Eduardo when I was 23, the classic good guy, hardworking, serious, faithful. I was the opposite. Even so, I fell in love with the way he looked at me as if I were worth more than even I believed. And yes, I cheated on him several times with guys I don't even remember, but he always came back. He always told me, "You're more than your mistakes." I guess I got used to being forgiven, to having someone rescue me. We got married when I turned 25. It was the wedding I always dreamed of, white flowers, registry list, and all of Instagram telling me how perfect I looked. Inside I still felt empty, but on the outside it looked like I'd won. During the first months I kept going out secretly, of course not with men, only with my girlfriends. But we all know how those just one drink nights end. Eduardo found out about one of those outings. He gave me an ultimatum, either I left that life behind or I'd lose everything. I saw him cry, tremble, and that's when I understood I couldn't keep destroying him. That same day I deleted my Instagram, blocked my party friends, started therapy, quit alcohol, and wrote a post on Reddit. I needed to get everything out. It was a mistake. The comments were worse than any mirror. "You're an emotional manipulator. Your husband is a saint. Let him go. You didn't change, you just got tired of getting caught." I read every word with anger, with guilt, with helplessness. And still I didn't reply. I logged out and promised I was going to change. Not for them, but for me, for him. For 2 years I did. I behaved like the perfect wife. I never went out without telling him. I cooked, I saved money. I devoted myself to my work as a school psychologist. I even began helping girls who had lived what I lived. Eduardo began to trust again. That light came back to his eyes, until one night, at a stupid work dinner, I saw someone I shouldn't have seen again. And that's when everything began to crumble. But that will be in the next part. For 2 years I was someone else, literally. I changed my number, deleted all my social media, even distanced myself from my sister who always said I'd been more fun before. I started reading at night, cooking new recipes. I signed up for yoga. I began to build a life I barely recognized, but that made me feel clean. Eduardo changed too. He became more tender, more relaxed. He stopped checking my phone. He asked me for advice about work. He kissed my forehead every morning. For the first time, I felt worthy of his love. Sometimes I woke up at midnight with panic attacks, not because I'd done something wrong, but because everything was fine. And in my life, whenever things were fine, something always ruined it. The trigger was a work dinner. I didn't feel like going, but my school principal practically ordered me. Formal dinner, colleagues. Wine. Nothing unusual. Until I saw him, Carlos. At first I didn't recognize him. Thinner, with a beard, wearing a suit, but his voice was unmistakable. He was one of those party friends I used to have, one I admit I once drunkenly kissed. It wasn't serious, just another blurry memory of my former self. He came over, greeted me like we were old friends. He teased me a bit about how I was now a married, professional woman, and I pretended to laugh. At that moment I didn't see anything strange, anything dangerous. After the dinner, he offered to drive me. My phone was dead and I couldn't call a taxi. I accepted. I remember we talked on the way about how different we were now. He told me he was about to open a bar, that he wasn't the crazy guy he used to be. We laughed. I think that's when I let my guard down. Halfway, he changed course. He said he needed to stop by his place for a moment, just a quick stop. I didn't see it coming. He parked in an alley, locked the doors, and his face changed. The joking tone vanished. His eyes weren't friendly anymore. I don't want to write the details. I'll just say I fought, I screamed, I cried, and in the end, when I had no strength left, he left me 3 blocks from my house like I was an empty bag. I walked barefoot, blouse torn, no one on the street. When I got home, Eduardo was asleep. I looked at him from the hallway, so calm, so pure, and I knew I couldn't tell him. Not him, no. Not after everything I had been. I locked myself in the bathroom, vomited, showered until my skin burned, and in the days that followed I faded out. I didn't go to work. I said I was sick. I turned off my phone. I didn't even open the curtains. A friend, the only one who still spoke to me from that time, called me. Crying, I told her what happened. And do you know what she said? Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe you gave the wrong impression. You know how you used to be. I blocked her that same day. A week later I decided to go on. As if nothing had happened. I faked a smile. I went back to work, back to routine, because I had a life to protect and a husband I couldn't lose again. What I didn't know was that he didn't leave empty-handed that night, that he left me more than a memory, something that began growing inside me and would make me doubt everything I'd built. 2 weeks after that night, I began vomiting every morning. At first I blamed stress, trauma. I had gone back to work, back to pretending everything was fine, laughing with my colleagues in the staff room, kissing Eduardo on the cheek as I served breakfast, but every time I smelled coffee my stomach flipped. One afternoon, in the school bathroom, I sat on the toilet with my heart pounding. I'd bought a pregnancy test just in case, not expecting anything, not even wanting to look at the result. 2 lines. I felt the floor disappear. I had to close my eyes, breathe deeply, and then the first question hit me and wouldn't let me sleep. Whose is it? It could be Eduardo's. We had been together that week. He always said we'd start a family soon, but we never talked dates. It could also be Carlos's. Just thinking that made me sick, but I decided to do the only thing I knew how to do, pretend and cling to hope. That night I made Eduardo's favorite dinner. I told him I wanted to talk. When I told him I was pregnant, he went silent. I saw him blink, and then he cried. He cried hard. He hugged my belly, kissed my hands. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us, he said. This baby is a miracle. I nodded. I couldn't speak, I just cried with him. From that day on, everything was perfect. Eduardo started talking to my belly. He read stories to it. He painted the baby's room green, because we didn't know yet if it was a boy or girl, but either way they'd have the whole world ahead. Every night I lay on his chest, listening to his plans for our new life. A life I wasn't sure I deserved. A life that might be built on a lie. I went to my checkups, did everything by the book. My doctors never asked too many questions. No one doubted me. Everyone assumed I was a happy mother, that I had finally reached the redemption I'd promised. But every time I saw an ultrasound, I wondered whose eyes those would look like. And even though I told myself it had to be Eduardo's, something inside me wouldn't rest. The anxiety wouldn't go away. One day I even thought of aborting. I went to the clinic. I sat in front of the doctor. I told her I wasn't ready. She looked at me with compassion and explained my options. She gave me the form to sign, and when I took the pen, my hand trembled. I couldn't do it. Not after seeing how Eduardo talked to the baby like he already knew them. Not after seeing how, for the first time in my life, someone believed in my sincerity. I went back home with the crumpled paper in my pocket and guilt burning my skin like fire. In the following months I faked peace, and in a way I even felt it. There were days I forgot everything, days I stroked my belly with tenderness, days I imagined Eduardo in the living room playing with our child. I allowed myself to believe, to love. But the shadow never left. It was there at every ultrasound, every night I closed my eyes in fear, silently waiting. And the day the baby was born, I knew. I knew everything would break. The day of the birth was magical. I've never used that word before, but that's what it was. Eduardo didn't leave my side for a second. He squeezed my hand, told me to breathe, whispered, "Almost there, love, we're almost there." When we heard the first cry, he broke down sobbing like a child. He kissed my forehead. I didn't feel pain, I didn't feel fear, only love. For a moment everything was perfect, as if the universe were giving me permission to be happy. But that moment didn't last. An hour later, while we were holding the baby, Eduardo went quiet. He didn't say anything for several seconds. I looked at him and saw his face change. He tensed. Lowered his hands, frowned. "Do you see it?" he asked me. "See what?" "The baby?" "He doesn't look like me." My chest tightened. I tried to laugh, to joke, to soften the moment. "It's normal, newborns change a lot. And he has your lips." But Eduardo wasn't listening. He just looked at the baby like an impossible riddle. He said nothing more that day, nor the next. He was kind, even tender. But there was a thick silence in the air, like when you feel someone watching you from behind. And a week later he said it plainly, "I'm going to ask for a DNA test. It's not an attack. I just need to be sure." My world collapsed, but I nodded. What else could I do? I couldn't protest. I couldn't get angry. I pretended to agree that I had doubts too, but inside I was dying, every day. During those 2 weeks he retreated into silence again. He spoke to me just enough. He cared for the baby. He slept on the couch. I tried to keep the routine, to hold my child without my hands shaking, not to look in the mirror, not to break. The night before the results came, I dreamed of Carlos. I dreamed of his car, his voice, his smell. I woke up drenched in sweat. Eduardo wasn't on the couch anymore. He'd gone for a run, another new routine. And then the day came. He called me from the kitchen. He had the envelope in his hand. His eyes were empty. He opened it. "Read it." He didn't show it to me. He didn't need to. "He's not mine," he said. It was like the air left the room. I started crying immediately. I collapsed to my knees. I screamed. I begged. "Let me explain, please. It wasn't what you think. It wasn't my fault." He didn't move. He just looked at me. I told him everything, from the dinner, the car, the alley, the assault. I told him I didn't say anything out of fear, because I thought he'd hate me, because no one would believe me. I told him how I vomited, how I wanted to die, how I almost aborted and couldn't. I told him about the guilt, about trying to change everything. I opened up like never before and he looked at me with the coldest eyes I'd ever seen on him. "Do you know what hurts the most?" he said. "That even now, after everything, I still doubt whether you're telling the truth. You've lied so much that I don't know what's real." I was speechless. There was no defense against that. "You'll hear from me soon," he added and left the room, no shouting, no tears. He just left. I stayed there on the floor, trembling, feeling like the worst trash in the world, knowing the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks after the truth, the letter arrived. A beige envelope with no sender, but with my name perfectly written. I knew what it was before opening it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at it as if it were a bomb about to explode. When I finally opened it, my fingers didn't tremble. My eyes did. Petition for dissolution of marriage due to non-recognized paternity. There was a list of lawyers, stamps, legal phrases I didn't understand, but that hurt all the same. At the end it said there was no request for custody or visitation, just a clear petition, total cessation of contact. I grabbed my phone and called Eduardo, off. I texted him, nothing. I tried his sister, his mother, even an old friend, blocked. The silence was crueler than any shout. Crueler than if he'd spat in my face. It was as if I'd died, as if I no longer existed to anyone. I clung to my son. For a week we slept together. I held him as if the warmth of my chest could cleanse the past. But every time I opened my eyes and looked at him, I couldn't help searching for Carlos's eyes in his face, and that killed me. I began to fall apart. I stopped eating. I stopped answering messages. A mother from school wrote to the office. Said she'd seen me crying in the car with my baby for over half an hour. Days later, HR called me. They suspended me for emotional instability. It was the final straw. My life had shrunk to a dark room, a baby crying without understanding, and a mind that punished me day and night. Nights were the worst. I heard voices in my head. The Reddit comments I once read echoing, "You're a slut playing victim. They should take your child away. Your husband's a hero for leaving." I didn't know who I was anymore, or if I'd ever been a good person. I thought about ending my life more than once, but every time I did, I looked at him, so small, so defenseless, and asked myself what kind of life awaited him if I stayed. I couldn't raise him. Not like this. Not with what he represented to me and what I represented to the world. So I did what I thought would be fairest. I asked for information about adoption. I went to an interview. I told them everything. The social worker looked at me with a mother's eyes, but also a judge's. "Are you sure you want to give him up for adoption?" she asked. "I don't want to," I said. "But I also can't keep him and pretend I'll do a good job. And my husband no longer exists for us, and his family, everyone erased me." Silence. I signed the first papers that afternoon. It wasn't final, just the beginning. But as I signed, I knew I was writing the end of my story. When I got home, I held him for hours. I apologized 1,000 times. I told him it wasn't his fault, that he was beautiful, that he was light in the middle of disaster, but I was already so broken that not even the purest love could save me.